because there are items here that were affecting projects that they were overseeing. Mr. Brian Barton, I want. Bridge, but a culvert. So we've come up with an option that saves us a lot of money. We're not having to do our parking raised. We're We've also asked them, because they had to redesign this. One of the things that we figured out during that process is that the infrastructure bill that the federal government passed, if you do certain kinds of HVAC system, in this case, ice bank storage is kind of where we make ice during the night into tanks. We store it and we use that to cool the buildings during the day, during the hot months. We can save a lot of energy costs, and that program would actually reimburse us, and we expect about $700,000 back to cover our mechanical systems on this project. So we're trying to maximize that, and the design team has actually pivoted to design in that direction as well. So we're trying to get every grant that we can possibly. So slides, that's just the story and how we ended up where we are. With that redesign, what I would like to show you are the renderings of what this school could potentially look like, and at least get a head nod on which way our architect can go, because we're designing as fast as we can so we can get this project built on time. So the first version that you have here on slide 5 and slide 6, this is sort of using the Toho look with brick and just the tilt wall. So this is more of our original concept. We have multiple schools that look like this, but we did ask for more options. I've heard that we build schools sometimes look pretty boring, and so we've asked for a few more options. And then, so the second option that we have is on slide 7. This, I spoke with our architects so that I don't mess up their presentation, because I didn't want them at the table doing this for you. This is more of a college campus look that they've leaned towards. So both slides 7 and 8 gave you angles of those. This is the one I'll be, again, full transparency, Dr. Shanoff likes a lot.
All of a sudden, it doesn't look as good.
Is there a cost difference between the two renderings?
It would be roughly about the same, because it's just using different different ways of pouring the same tilt panels. It's the same amount of bricks roughly, or paint in some cases. So it's not like we're doing any kind of special construction. It's just shouldn't be anything significant. Now, concept 3, and I was very clear on asking how to present this. This is a country western theme, because we're in Osceola County. And the architect said that his thought process was cowboy image meets big city. So this would definitely cost a little bit more money because of all the extra awnings and stuff to give you that western look, but it is not impossible to pull off for using some of our canopies that we typically put on our schools. So slides 9 and 10 show you that look. And then the fourth option, Dr. Shanoff's pretty big on this, so I keep asking for 4 now instead of 3, is more of, the architects explained this as his urban direction of space. So this is more of a modern take on a STEM on a STEM facility. Now, we don't know what the program is. We haven't worked that out for the school to say that it's specifically going to be STEM. We are building a greenhouse because of where it's located, that sort of stuff. So those are the 4 options that we have, and then slide 13 kind of puts them all on the same page for you. And I was really hoping that you guys can help us make that decision, which our architects can be.
I like option 2. I think it is a little more.
Tell me a little bit more about option 4. And this is kind of like Neil City, right? It looks a little Neil City-ish, right?
In option 4's version, yes.
Yeah.
You want to help me, Torbert? Sorry.
Option 4 is a little bit, as Dave said, it's a little bit of a modern take, a very modern style of architecture. It's a take on kind of a STEM program. So, yeah, I mean, you could say it has some similarities to Neo City, which is not our design, by the way. So it's using very modern forms to create kind of a more of an iconic look, if you will, for the school, a very unique look. The other 3 options, I think, are a little more, understated is not the right word, but a little more refined in terms of it, and not quite as slick or modern.
Did you design 4? No.
So
in 20 years, I can say that nobody's going to like that design anymore.
He did come up with the site plan, because I had him work through like FIFPA, coming up with a revised site plan that made the school fit. So I have to give him that.
I like 2.
I do think it has that college feel, and I think it will.
I tried not to, but I did.
You like 2 as well?
I think it has that college feel he mentioned, and I think being within a community is the one that probably the community members will like looking at the most.
Yeah, I just for the board's edification, I really felt like there was more of an institutional look to option 1. I felt like option 2 just seemed to have more natural light, and also I did like the facade at that corner. I thought that was a nice touch, and especially if we're looking at something that would be relatively cost neutral. I think that option 2 presents better than option 1, or something that would be more expensive between option 3 and option 4.
It does. The amount of iron work you would have to do to get option 3, or to create the overhangs for option 4, I'm concerned. I usually start getting concerned with prices when you see overhangs and stuff like that, especially in the 3rd story.
Yeah.
Then the engineering becomes very expensive. So I do agree option 2 would give you sort of, keep our traditional design, but you do bring a different flair to it to give you that option. That's just from a cost standpoint.
I mean, I like option 4, but
Or,
I don't know, the majority rules, obviously. What do you think, Mr. Melendez?
I'm kind of leaning towards 2 as well. Because not only the overhangs, but also the water drainage of them too. You know, you gotta have gutter spouts that come out, then they accumulate towards the front.
You really bring up a good point.
And maintenance.
The maintenance.
Yeah.
When you've got that many covers, open covers essentially, you get a significant amount of water and wind damage that starts to kind of show itself
You
pretty
create a
quickly.
drip line around the entire
Right.
building. And the guttering system becomes very tricky.
Yeah,
So the
so,
only issue with option 2 is it's not, what about the flat roof? Does that have anything to do with it? How they're like, they're up and down as far as,
Oh, no, flat roofs is usually how we build our schools. Regardless, we won't do anything fancy because these are probably the best. You mean in terms of holding water?
yeah, because like,
Something like that?
because look at option 1, it's kind of a flat roof more or less.
Yeah.
But option 2 has these ups and
Yeah.
downs. Because sometimes you put HVA systems on the top too. Does that allow for that? And when we're talking about maintenance and water, because you're creating a lot of curves and, not curves, but you're creating a lot of
think
angles.
it's just shown that way in the photographs, but it's intended to be a flat roof, a flat TPO roof that we.
So that's just the front, like the facade.
Correct.
So then the back of it,
They're not flat roofs, they're low slope.
yeah, no such thing as a flat roof. Yeah, we don't want a flat
They
roof.
have to slope so that the water gets off. Next.
So what we're seeing is just the front part of it then, right? So it would look like it's up and down.
Correct. Yeah,
But then
no,
behind it.
that is definitely just a tilt wall that does that on the ends, but the roof itself will be low slope for the drainage. It will be our typical roof. That's just a facade on the front.
And where would you put the logo for the main school? Because a lot of times you want to put like a big logo in the front. Where would that lean for that? Where would it?
so in option 2, it looks like,
It's right at the front entrance.
yeah,
really.
well, it'd be at the front entrance, and we don't need to necessarily, I mean, the Nova Road sign itself, can you, Rhonda, can you go back to number 2?
Yeah.
So the Nova Road sign
go.
can change. I mean, that, obviously, we haven't named the
No,
school
it's
yet.
just non-labeled letters.
So, so it also looks like if you look at that orange, pillar in the tilt panel in the middle, it looks like something's on it.
SDOC logo right now.
Yeah, so that also too could be a place where we go ahead and put some signage relative to the school. So if the school ends up having an emblem, we could go ahead and put it up there as well.
And this look is actually facing Nova Road, so that's what you would see if when you're passing Nova. But then you'll come in from further up, and then we're putting digital marquees at our entrances to mark those so you can get into the schools.
Looks like a Valencia.
Speaking of not get off topic, but Gateway's looking really good. When I drove by today, I was like, dang,
It does look good.
nice.
It does look messy to start with, but yeah, we're really excited to get it done.
How much are we paying for the piece of land?
We're still going through that process, Mr. Aguilar. We don't have a price yet.
How big is that piece?
About 6 acres. About 6 acres.
I know Robert Bass isn't on the board anymore, but one thing he did like about, like on page 8, if we can, there's a lot of natural landscaping there, if we can reuse some of the trees as much as possible, you know what I mean, some of the natural settings in there, rather than bringing in like a palm tree or something like that, some of the.
Yes or no? So we've worked that out. We have a specific set of trees that we use that are low maintenance because palm trees require money every couple of months to trim branches and stuff. So yes, absolutely. That's definitely something that we've tasked the design teams with across the board to do. So am I hearing option?
Seems
got-
like there's consensus for two.
Option 2. All right, thank you. So then I'd like to take you to OXA, which is the other project that we're starting design with. So this is the site plan that we ideally landed with. The buildings, we've had multiple iterations. We have quite a few meetings with our stakeholders and how this site could operate. As you can see, we're expecting for the bus loop to come in off the back of the school. Right now, it comes off of Orange Blossom Trail in front. We're still working through that agreement. We think we've cleared the South Florida Water Management hurdle. The road's been designed and is being permitted through Osceola County. The developer is handling that. So we're looking at a revised agreement with our legal team to work that out. So we've done quite a bit of programming, and this is what we landed with. And so the slide 15 shows you, and the buildings are different here, so I was just trying to get sort of what the look could be, but that's the shape of the building that we landed on because of the kind of space that we have. This is more of a traditional outlook using how the school currently looks on slide 15. just with some enhancements and using the large spaces with some arts, some graphics to spruce it up, and you can see the building in the back. That's being added. Slide 16, now this is not what the building is gonna look like, but it's the color scheme that matters to what it looks like. So again, I did get with our architect on how to use this, and it says, the intent here is to use the campus as a canvas, because it is an art school. So using graphics and quotes into the buildings, and they were even thinking of, and kind of pushed back on it, putting a music note into the tilt wall, and I kind of asked how much that cost. I
Can
know
the students
it's
actually
cheap.
design the murals themselves, like leave them blank and let the kids?
We have done that.
Little by
at
little,
Gate-
let them
So at
paint?
Gateway High School, we did do that. We did have the students put together the artwork that went into one of the buildings. So we have done that. That shouldn't be an issue at all. We just need to work that out with the school. We can absolutely do that.
You know what I mean, where you just kind of, I'm sorry. Because just to kind of like, maybe there's certain sections, maybe there's like 3 or 4 walls where we know it's gonna be, so we just kind of use clip art for there now, leave it blank, and then just, and you don't have to do it all at the same time. Maybe one year, the best students get to do it, then the next year, that's their grand prize or incentive to do something great.
They already have something like that in the little corridors. And
Yeah.
I don't think that would be up to us anyway. That would be up to the principal.
But on the outside of the building, this is all really just thought processes in here, and we can certainly make it work. And then option 3, this is what the building is actually going to look like, and this is more so we can make the building look like whatever, either one of these 3 options. But I think this is the site plan that the stakeholders landed on. We worked with the principal and a few of our our art stakeholders. But this is creating a performing space really in the front of the building. You look at.
That's what I was gonna say, in this rendering here, you definitely see a stage. Is there going to be like a stage
So
area
we
here?
can do that, yeah. So those are things that I've asked for. We didn't create a stage here, but it's, if you can look at this third option has a stairway that actually acts like a stage. So you have multiple levels. In slide 19, you can see it better.
Yeah.
So there are 2 stairwells to the side of it potentially, and then you can use the stairwells. That big stage area right up in the front of the building. And then slide 20 actually shows you some more of an aerial view to show you that the courtyard spaces can be broken out. You can have outdoor classroom spaces, you can do music rehearsals, and we can potentially put that outdoor stage in order to do outdoor shows and stuff like that.
Do you have solar panels on the top? Is that what that is?
No, ma'am, that is
No, I
just,
thought the same
that is
thing.
just roofing. It's not solar panels, but it will be built ready for solar panels. This is just typical roofing. It's just a large, it's just metal roof. So that part will be metal, just to separate off.
Wait, try solar panels?
It usually comes down to price, Mr. Melendez. We build all of our schools ready for solar panels. It just comes down to what the cost benefit is. So like on the high school, we looked at what the payback period would be. It's actually 32 years before we recoup our money when our engineer ran the numbers, but we would have to replace the solar panels in 20. So it wasn't a good business investment. Now, on a smaller building like New City, yeah, so we.
But not for the whole entire thing. That looks like a wing, though. That looks like a, you know what I'm saying? Not solar panel the entire like auditorium, but the standalone building by itself. Since it looks like solar panels, it's a standalone building.
We can certainly look at the cost of it if it fits in the budget, and we can certainly work that out. It just comes down to money sometimes with solar panels around. We do build very efficient buildings that are running, 30-40% less energy than a traditional building because of the high performance. But I'll definitely look at it. The building is being designed to accommodate solar panels anyway, so it's just another, we can definitely put it as an alternate and get a pricing for it. So I guess the question is, what do we want it to look like?
So we're looking at between 16, 17.
So 16 and 17 is the same.
Same.
18 is a different one, and then you have slide 15 has more of a traditional, very just opaque basic building, using exactly what's there and just building onto it.
I really like this concept of having the stage in that area. Is that 19 and 20?
Yes.
18, 19, 20?
Yeah. No, we can put a stage in the courtyard. That's not an issue.
I really, but I
I do like
like that design.
yeah, I like the stairs. But he said, that's what he said, the building is going to look like, it's just what,
The building is going to look like what it looks like on slide 18 in terms of the shape of the building, but we can put any one of these color schemes on it.
So we're only talking about
the colors.
that one wing, not the, we're not discussing the main building.
No,
in the-
that, I think it's more focused on the courtyard, area, because you're not gonna do the outside of the building, facing OBT looking that way.
Yeah. Well, kind of like mix of what, I think what the chairwoman is saying. I like the fact that the more stages, the better, because people like to perform, people like to, practice and rehearsal and things like that. So I'm leaning more towards 19. But the other thing too is 17 has like the stairwells on the outside that are like exposed. I'm not exactly excited about that, because for liability purposes, if somebody falls, or if the rain comes in, or if it's super hot.
That's not the building though. The
Number
building is-
17?
No, the building is actually gonna look
18.
like 18, I was talking about the color scheme on
It's
17,
just the
putting
color
it on
scheme
building.
of 17.
I feel like.
Does it look like the stairs are on the outside on 17?
But we're not doing that building. We're just looking at the colors
I know
on
that's
17.
confusing, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's a little,
So
that
this,
is a little
this,
confusing.
this building, this is the building we had to end up
To
landing on
be-
because of
yeah,
the
to
footprint
be
of the
fair.
property. Well, we already had the renderings being proposed, so in terms of the color scheme, we can put any of those color schemes on this building.
So really the question is either 18 or 19. This for the option 1 and option 2.
No, this is all one, this is what the building will be. The question is, do we want this color scheme or do we want this
You
color
want, you want
scheme?
art graphics on it, or do you want the color, like the jigsaw puzzle of colors on it?
So can we make it look like page 16? I'm kidding.
Okay. What's
The
your-
color scheme for offset is currently the purple, right?
Yeah, that's what I was kinda wondering too.
Why-
Is there a way to keep?
why
the
would
purple
we-
color?
We
That's their,
can, we
like,
can definitely
their thing.
build a color flavor into this.
Okay, so we can keep their school colors, which is, I
Absolutely.
think is like purple and silver or something. I don't know.
We'll build that
I
into,
should know
we'll,
this.
we'll build that into the, we will build that into the color schemes that are being presented.
Okay. I suppose as long as you keep their school colors, if your question is whether or not, we think that we should have like the writings and the graphics,
Yeah,
I do
that's
think
it.
that's really creative.
Okay.
So,
And you like the outdoor stage?
yeah.
And then also, you know, like on, let's say for instance, page 19, you know, everything's perspective. If one set of stairs, like, it looks like, say there's like 6 stairs, I'm not gonna count the number of stairs.
Yeah.
If there'd be like one flatter one?
There is, there are two.
Okay,
there are
yeah,
two-
because I
there-
can't tell the perspective.
there are two
Because if
there.
somebody wants to perform, they're not gonna perform on a
It's an
little
actual stage.
foot. They actually wanna have, you know, what I'm saying? They're probably, it looks like it, but I don't wanna make that assumption. You know what I
It
mean? The
is.
first thing,
That's-
that there's enough to like, you know, put a drum set or whatever. you
That's
know.
the expectation, sir.
Okay.
So we'll do that. So we'll go with the arts, graphics. So I think the bigger discussion that I needed to have with the board is around our Oxford portables and our master plan for construction. So as you can see from the site plan, what we did here was we superimposed the building over the existing site plan, and you can see it lands smack on the existing portable classrooms that we have here. Now, these portable classrooms are owned by the school district, and they are concrete portables. They're not wooden portables by any means. So they're definitely long-term assets that we can use. As a part of our strategic plan, current strategic plan is to find more space for our admin staff here, because this building has been outgrown, building 2000 has been outgrown. So what we looked at, we need to offset these portables, we need to move them before our project starts, and so we're already looking at them. So in order to do that, moving the concrete portables gets very tricky. You wanna move them once only because they can break, you know, it's tilt wall, so they're poured in place concrete, they're not blocks by any means. So we would have to create a temporary portable classroom wing within the current track in order for the students to go, so we can pull up the existing portables that we have. And our plan is, we looked around the district, we reached out to principals about where they have the greatest need. And slide 22 shows you PATS. PATS has kind of outgrown their building, and they're in multiple portables out back. But those portables are all wooden, and a lot of them are in really bad shape. So we feel like we can create some really solid classroom spaces for PATS to help them and give them some added space that they really need. And so that's definitely one option that we look at. We did look at, as a last resort, bringing some of those portables here to the admin complex over by where Pat's Place used to be, to lay them down there and make some solid office spaces for our teams that are now getting larger. So we have teams that are split up between here and Ross Jeffries, like ESC. It's split up in multiple places, so wanting to bring them down home, down to wanting choices over at Ross Jeffries right now. So you have an assistant superintendent's office that's over there. It's kind of different. It's really a complex way that Ross Jeffries functions with multiple departments inside. So this would give us an opportunity to do that. And then we realized that Osceola Virtual School, who's over at St. Cloud Middle, that they have outgrown their space because of the amount of space that they need for testing. So we're looking to create some portable spaces there as well.
So we can split out
Absolutely, yeah.
some to each.
Yes, sir.
so to speak.
Yeah.
It's not
And they won't be like your traditional portables that you're accustomed to seeing at schools that are temporary and raised. These are built solid concrete buildings that are flat and can really function well for us.
Do we have any concern that there will be any issues in the transport system?
No. It's just, I don't like the idea of moving them on site and then moving them again. It just becomes really expensive to do because they're not easy to move. You have to take the roofs off, you don't pick them up like a traditional building, like a traditional portable. You have to take the roofs off, you can move 3 walls, you have to get special bracing, a special crane to lift and put them on a truck, then you put them back, then you put the roof back on. It just becomes really complicated. So the preference would be to move these ones. One of the things that we never did, and this is probably bad on me, I catered for the project and the portables for the project, but not where these would land and how to rebuild them into classrooms. So our current portable budget only has $650,000. So we did an estimate to what it would take to move it to these locations, both the pads to admin, to Osceola Virtual, and then to rebuild them into classrooms or offices and have them outfitted, because right now they're running on chill water, they'll need new AC units and stuff like that. So what we're asking for is to increase our portable budget by $6 million to accommodate that. And we are asking our maintenance team to lead the charge on doing these so that we can do a lot of the work in-house and cut costs, so we're not looking to hire a CM per se to do this work.
Can it be part of the OXA renovation budget?
We can
Because
include-
it's technically on their campus. It's like demolition, you know what I mean? I wouldn't take demolition money from the demolition budget, you know what I mean? If demolition, a current site is part of what they do.
I don't think,
You can do it either way. I don't know if you want it as part of the official project when you send it to DOE. If you want it to be
no, because then
higher,
it would
that
offset,
get
it
backed
would
out.
offset, it would actually increase the cost per student station if we calculate it that way.
Okay.
So I would prefer, because maintenance is doing the work, I would have preferred to just increase this line item by the $6 million and have them just handle the project completely separate.
One question though that I know you're kind of going fast. On page 14, because I know it's still high school, but it's still middle school. There's a lot of parent pickup and there's a lot of special events. And so a lot of times we're driving in and out. How exactly, because I know we said the bus loop is in the back, but do we have like a way to route traffic in there? You know, because
Yes, sir.
I know it's a high school, most
This
students have
is
their
very
own.
preliminary at the moment, but what we were trying to do is make sure that we had the right amount of retention done. So yes, there is going to be a plan done here to route people through the parking so that we can maximize the amount of stacking we have on site to do pickup, both for middle schools and high school, but also we're maximizing the amount of parking space. I actually think we can create more parking using formalized parking rather than grass parking that we have, and put more cars using this space that we have.
Because I would like to see like a little drawing like that. with
Yeah,
the
I mean,
arrows
once
to
we
kinda
start
get an idea
designing,
of,
once we
you know.
start designing the project, we can certainly share that with you. I think right now we're just highly in schematics, just trying to make sure that the phasing works, that we can get the portables out, put in our temporary classrooms so that next summer we are ready to go and
Yeah,
start.
just because everything's orientation-wise, because the school has a lot of concerts, there are a lot of events, you know, and there's always like, and you don't want traffic to get backed up. Before we get too far advanced in the plan, I want to know that that's a key component of the remodeling, is to make sure that there's good traffic flow in and out of the school.
Mr. Tobert is making notes, and we'll make sure we get you a plan, as we share with the board, on what the stacking plan could look like.
Perfect, thank you.
So, I guess what we're asking for is permission to increase our budget, our portable budget by $6 million. Ms. Graber does not have an issue with this, but we still needed board approval in order to do that.
So we'll add it as an agenda item. Is that,
It'll come forward as a future budget
That's
amendment
what- yeah.
officially. I just need the head nod today to go ahead and do that.
And that's just a one-time infusion, that's not a
No,
recurring.
it's not recurring, it's just one time to get the project done. So, slide 26 is our next item, and this is K8DD, which is located in the Lone Bridge subdivision that's still to be built. It is located off of 19th Street and Orange Avenue in St. Cloud. So, this school is on the same path as the AA, which is in Kindred, and on the board agenda today is the GMP to start construction on Kindred. We have a GMP, I just did not push it through because We've been in negotiations with this developer for a better part of a year in order to get the site ready for us to start construction. We had our last meeting, our most recent meeting as last Thursday with their lawyers and ours. Unfortunately, they have encountered a lot of delays. Their SDP was not approved in the timelines that we originally thought. We have been asking them when they think they can get us a pad-ready site for us to start building the school. Their best guess, because they don't have us out for a water management permit. They're still going through Toho approvals for how much, Toho wants them to upsize the piping along Hickory Tree in order to get the right amount of water, sewer pipes, getting power, transformers, and every utility is pushing their upgrades onto the developers. So the developers having to start with that, the amount of money it's going to cost them. And so it looks, they're thinking that the earliest they can get us the site ready is June of next year, 2024, which, if everything was perfect, still makes it extremely difficult to build a K-8 in 1 year and open it on time. So I don't think it's physically possible. Our CM team doesn't think that it's physically possible to open the school on time if we start in June of next year. So what I've asked, two things. I've asked Rwanda to look at the amount of students that should have showed up here in 2025, summer of 2025, and how we accommodate them. So we're starting to look at that from a zoning and finding seats for them. And the recommendation after discussing with Dr. Shanoff would be to push the school a year. It is the safest thing for us to do because I don't think it's physically possible. If we start in the summer of next year, then we would potentially be open in December, which you don't want to open a new school in the middle of a school year. It's just very messy because then students are already starting school in a different class, having to move. It just becomes really cumbersome. So our recommendation to board is that based on where the developer is and turning the site over to us, which we don't own, is to push the opening of the school 1 year.
Are we able then to go to the county for their staff analysis and is the wrong development in phases to sit there and say, hey, we'd like to ask for a delay of phase 3 because we don't want phase 3 to come in there if we can't have the school ready. Next thing you know, we're going to be overburdening that school or having to do redistricting 3 times.
So that's a very good point, Ronnie.
So the redistricting process was based on when these homes would start coming in because it's about them mitigating the impact that they're going to bring. So their agreement actually says the school site didn't have to be ready until the 551 first permit was pulled. So they're actually bringing the site to us early at the beginning of their phase. So it won't be them that's generating the kids. We'll actually be taking the external kids into their community before they actually start generating the kids for the school.
Yeah, but it's the big picture though, Rhonda. And I mean that with all due respect. Maybe that community isn't generating it, but we're already full surrounding it. You know what I mean? So that is just adding like a marginal. You know what I mean? Saying so we don't have the ability to impact something that's already developed. We can go and try to slow down what is currently there. Because, you know, the school isn't 100% contained, right? Am I understanding? So Rome Bridge isn't going to provide 100% of the students that go to that school.
Okay.
It's providing relief from other areas.
Right.
So the developer has been clear, Mr. Melendez, is a good point, that they're willing to bring the site to us early. It's just that they have to clear their hurdles that that with the state and the utilities and stuff like that. They're willing to give us the site really early, which is
And I get that, but I want somebody to like lobby for us. I mean, they got enough lobbyists, and let the county fight that. Can somebody fight for the students and say, hey, wait a second, we can't, because of whatever reason, you're not the enemy, but you can't deliver the school on time. Can you like not do phase 3? I guarantee you, there's phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Don't get phase 3 until we get substantial completion.
I mean, we can have the discussion with the city, but I don't think we have a lot to stand on with that.
I mean, you just said they don't have to have it by then, right?
Right.
So they're not late.
Yeah, they're
technically.
not late. They're
That's the
coming in
If we
early.
were,
They're
I mean,
actually
it's
allowed to
not.
build 550
We-
homes before the school have to even be conveyed to
Contractually
us.
speaking.
Correct,
Yes,
and
sir.
we've changed our agreement significantly since then.
Right.
This is an old agreement from like 2014 or
It's
something
way
like
back,
that.
yes.
That we kind of inherited, and so this was passed on to multiple developers as they bought that property out. So it was an old agreement. We don't have an agreement like that that says that 551 homes anymore. We're telling you we need it day one, and we need it this way, and we need roads used.
And I understand the individual components, I'm just talking about the impact. In other words, we were planning to redistrict, we did redistricting already. You know what I mean? And that's, my point is, now we're not gonna put that new school in there for another year, so we're probably gonna have to redistrict again.
Well, we're planning for it now.
No, we haven't moved these children
We haven't
yet.
moved these children yet.
They're in the plan yet to be presented.
So we're planning on.
So they won't be moved twice.
We're anticipating this and the redistricting plan that's coming to the board in January. We're gonna start the community meetings and stuff like that. The schedule is actually on the board agenda tonight to be approved.
So when is that planned? Because I know we already did the redistricting about a year ago, and we moved people around to like Hickory Tree, and we kind of did
Yes,
the
sir.
whole, the best that we could.
Right.
So that was that was to bring relief to Narcousie, actually move students from Narcousie to Hickory Tree.
But-
So now we're coming in on another plan where Hickory Tree will absorb some more students in anticipation that a large portion of their students will move to Rome Bridge
Once it's open.
once it's open.
So the next one we're planning is not, even though we're doing it now in 2024, we're not planning for it to take effect until 2025?
The redistricting that we're asking tonight to open will occur in December. The public hearing is in January, and it'll actually take effect in August. And we intend for those students to stay at Hickory Tree. The students that will leave Hickory Tree to go to Rome Bridge are more to the south of the school, not to the east of the school.
So we're not trying to impact the same students
goal is not moving the
twice.
same students twice.
We're not trying to impact the same students twice.
I'm just trying to get the timeline, so that's what I'm saying. So the redistricting is gonna happen again at the end of '24, but this school isn't gonna be there in '24.
No, so we won't, so if this school opens in 2026, we'll bring it to you in fall of 2025 for the redistricting.
Just to create a zone for this school.
Right, but the only problem is you're still gonna have to redistrict again a third time, because you can't predict things perfectly, because once the school's built, you're gonna get recapacity, so
Well,
we're gonna have to redistrict three
Honestly,
times.
do
We just
have a
did it once,
choice.
twice,
We
and
are-
three
We are a
times.
choice district, and I mean, our expectation is people are gonna start choicing their kids in regardless if they're districted for it or not.
Because they're gonna see a brand-new school, they're gonna wanna go to a fancy.
It's usually how it
React
is.
to that.
We are helping the Narcousie corridor because we are pushing along. Sunbridge is going to be open summer of this coming school year. So we're anticipating that. So you'll see the districts the zones being created for the Sunbridge project as well as the Niceville project. So those are permanent zones that are being created. So we are going to help over in that area.
So historically, we redistrict every year because of the growth in Osceola County. In the past, our goal has been not to redistrict the same set of students more than once in 3 to 5 years. Dr. Shanahoff has asked me to try to stretch that goal if at all possible. But sometimes if you're in a hot pocket, so back around 2012, 2013, we were always right around that Publix at Narcousie. Mr. Allen can contest to that. And we were just constantly hitting those same communities because they were caught in the center of all the growth. We try really hard not to do that unless the growth is pushing that based on where we're locating our schools. So while Hickory Tree may get opened up more than once, or maybe even twice in the next 3 to 5 years, it won't be the same pocket of students that we're moving in that mix. It'll be a different set of students coming in or moving out.
Okay, I see what you're saying, so it's the same school, but there's a different
But
subdivision.
it's a
that
different
feeds
pocket of
it.
students. That's always our goal. Yes, sir.
Okay.
We are very, listen, we're not telling you that this is perfect and that you're not gonna have one parent or two parents up here that because, oh, you just missed my house by this much and so now my kid can't go to this school. But we are a choice district as well. I mean, it is something that we offer, so they can choose as long as there's space to apply for that space. So, thank you. There was definitely, listen, this decision to push Rome Bridge or push an entire school for a year has kept me up so many nights. But we have everything ready, you know, we're teed up, we have the project designed, we have bids done, we'll just have to refresh those and get them worked out, but again, it does hinge on when this developer can turn the site over, which we're continuing to have monthly discussions with them. about what progress they've been making. So that takes me to slide 27 about builder's risk insurance. This is a fun topic for everybody. So builder's risk insurance, we typically cover builder's risk insurance on all of our construction projects. It typically covers, damage to materials and components during construction. It could be, hurricane related. It could be just natural damage, any floods happening, that sort of stuff. And so it's something that we've historically carried. It hasn't been an issue because a lot of our projects have been below $50 million, and the district's umbrella policy typically covers that. So there is not a pass-through cost. Our last few K8 projects have been over $50 million, so we've been asking our CMs to buy an independent builder's risk policy. So what we've seen, and there was a mistake there on the third slide. It should be varying prices from CMs for projects over $50 million. So we're seeing, depending on their CMs EMR ratings and how good they are, some people are getting better prices for insurance than others. So triggered a thought. We have our insurance agent that handles all of our other insurances. So I reached out through our risk department asking if they can get a quote for builder's risk. And they were able to get for the same coverages that our CMs are getting. On K8AA, which is Knightsbridge, the project that's going tonight, our agent Brown & Brown was able to get a policy for roughly about $74,000 cheaper than our construction manager could have gotten it for. So two things. Brown & Brown's current contract with the district does not cover builder's risk. So we are asking for an amendment to their contract to be able to quote it out and get us a policy if we need to and save us $74,000. And then we chose to buy the policy through Brown & Brown as well for $74,000 less than our CM could provide it. And then it is a deliberate item added for the facilities department under our strategic planning portion on how we manage builders' risk. It might be that we just up our coverage levels in certain areas so that we don't even have to worry about it at all as a separate line item on projects over $50 million. So that's something that I want to explore, but how do we manage insurances across the board on construction projects is definitely going to be a focus of ours.
I mean, don't the CM has to submit their EMR?
They do, yes, sir.
Regardless.
They do.
Right, so why would it be cheaper for us if it's the same EMR that's in question?
So I think it's because of the amount of insurance that we buy. We probably get a better rate, but we did have our agent show up here. So the CM's some CM's EMR is different. So you do have like a Wharton Smith versus a national company who carries their entire national EMR on there. And so what we find is that the larger companies tend to be more expensive on insurance just because of their sizes and I guess their risk.
And in the bidding process, we can't cap that and say that, listen, this is what the cap for this is going to be. And
we do cap it, except they're coming in and the cap prices is varying. We do get an estimate and then they send us the invoice once they pay for it. But we're seeing that prices. So we've seen, like at Knightsbridge, it was roughly about $200,000. At Sunbridge, it was closer to $480,000.
so when they're submitting their bids, then it's going to be discounted minus the insurance from the CM?
So currently, yes. The one on tonight does not have the insurance for builder's risk on it. We deducted
Well, that was a great point. So what Mr. Aguirre was saying is that, so we're gonna pay for it, right? Because when Brown & Brown quotes it to us, we have to pay them.
Correct.
And we just
We
like.
took
do
it
a
out of the
charge order,
CMs.
like
That is
deduct
correct.
the order
Yep.
from what we
We
pay
don't.
them.
We didn't even carry it as a line item in the GMP. We just struck it out. So it's not even a line item. Builder's risk is not on the GMP for tonight, but we have a separate item to buy the builder's risk through.
And how would we work out what that discounted rate is from the CM?
So we got a quote from them. From their insurance agent, and we got a quote from our insurance agent through Brown & Brown, and that's how we knew the difference was $75,000. We took the entire GMP, we had to send the site plan, showing the location of the property, flood zones and stuff like that to all of to both parties. And so we got quotes, and so it's apples to apples, and ours through Brown & Brown is $74,000 less.
So what does this come out, what's the side-by-side comparison between the CM having their, it's not the
It's
most
just a
common.
premium. It's just a premium that's different. I mean, I don't, in all the
But I
time-
mean, so here's what my fear is, right, is that the CM would normally carry, all right, instead we're gonna be carrying, they're gonna discount their rate. let's say that they give you a 15%, just pulling it out of the air, right? 15% discount for you carrying the insurance, and then that 15% really isn't like what they would be, what their premium would actually be. So it just seems like they're gonna reduce their fee by a lot less than we would be paying for the insurance if they had been
Oh,
carrying.
Mr. Arguello, I do not pay fee on insurances, sir.
What do you mean?
I don't pay fee on, we do not pay fee on insurances. We only pay fee on direct cost of work, actual cost
Right.
of work. We don't pay any fee on insurances. It's actually a true
We
pass-through.
wouldn't pay for their fee of insurance, right? But they put it in their overhead.
They're not.
They
carrying-
don't? You're saying no, so there's no-
They don't.
So then why would we carry it at all if they're forced to carry it and we don't have to pay a fee?
Because their premiums, this $74,000 is the premium that they would have to buy the insurance for. It's a true pass.
Well, the premium, okay, yeah.
So our premium is 74,000 less than their premium. There is no fee on it or anything like that.
But it's
literally-
gonna be different for every project.
It is
right?
going to be different for every project.
So how do we know that that's gonna be the case for every project? Because once we do it, then we're stuck with the process.
Well, so two things. We have the option of, this is only for projects over $50 million, which are very few. Because our Island Village, our Neo City, those projects, we already cover it. The district already covers builder's risk. It's only for those projects over $50 million. So we have two options. We can increase the district's tolerances and limits and say that we're gonna cover all of our builder's risk regardless of the size of a project, which a lot of school districts do already. Or we have the option of, when we have a project specific over $50 million, is have the CM get a quote for their insurance and what their premium is, and we get a quote through Brown and Brown, and we take the cheaper of the two options.
We don't hurt at all to get a quote.
No, it doesn't. It just pure savings. And I was going to say, in all the time that I've done this, I don't think I've ever used my builder's risk insurance, so I want to pay as little as possible for it.
And whoever wins, wins. I don't care if it's Brown and Brown or if it's the other one, just like you said, bid them out in each deal that we
Hear
get.
that?
I don't think he's worried about it.
I mean, I would like to lower it. I mean, obviously, but I'm not, the winner, I'm not concerned about who the winner is. It's the fact is, I want to save money at the
Yes,
end of
sir.
the day.
No,
And
absolutely.
whoever provides the better quote wins.
Yes, ma'am. So the last item I'll have Rhonda take you through our real estate, just on two properties. The Boggy Creek Road property is, I did add a site plan in to show you on slide 29. Slide 29. It's a little bit of property we have next to Soho High School.
Good afternoon. Oh gosh, a year ago, you think that's probably, been about a year ago? Yeah, so about a year ago, UCP Charter School reached out to us, and they had asked if we had any buildings that were either underutilized, which we did not to meet their need, or any vacant land available. So they are currently in a lease that will expire in August of 2025, and they are looking to build a permanent facility to open in 25-26. Their current square footage is about 35,000 square feet, and they have enough of a wait list that they need to almost double. So they're looking at building a minimum of a 60,000 square foot building. So after working throughout the county with the Bishop Bill team and some other co-ops that they tried to work through, they've come back to us and asked if we would be interested in declaring the property next to Tohobaklika High School surplus, and in return that we could sell the property to them so that they could build their permanent UCP charter school next to our high school. If we were to move forward with the agreement, they would be looking for a 90 to 180 day due diligence period to work with the county, because we're not sure that the county would agree to them adding a school adjacent to our school, especially on Buggy Creek Road. But this would be the time to address it before the road improvements start, should they need to do any additional cutouts for paving, et cetera. And then they said if they wanted us to see a facility that they're currently operated, that they would probably mirror, that they have both an East Orlando location and a Winter Garden facility. So the consensus we were looking for tonight is the school board interested in moving forward to surplus that property so that we could ultimately work out an agreement with UCP.
Is there not a future use for that for us?
So my understanding, Mr. Arguello, when we designed this, was that a middle school was supposed to go there and tie into the same energy plants and stuff like that. At this point, we don't see that being a need for the school district, just because that over that area and that zone has been built out enough for a middle school. So I don't foresee it being an issue or us using it directly.
And do you want to speculate what a price for this piece of land is going to be?
Yeah, I think I provided, we looked at that, but it's gotta be between, it's an odd question because of where it's located and there's not many uses for it because it's part of the school. But I have to imagine it's worth at least 2.5 to 3 million.
Can we get like a strategic plan of like what all the surplus property is that we have? Because I know we talked about Lakeview. I think we maybe, I don't know if it's Reed Creek, but some other school, because I don't like to do things piecemeal, because we talked about Celebration K-8, you know, or the Celebration
Yeah,
area,
we
you know,
did.
possibly working with them.
Yes, sir.
And so it's like, I feel like we're getting these onesies kind of crawling in, as opposed to, and to me, that's an appropriate workshop item, is to look at what is all of our surplus property, and what would be the goal of that? You know, because right now, you know, the legislature talked about, you know, affordable housing, you know, for, even for teachers, you know, and so if the school district owns the land, we may end up looking at something like that. You know, I'm not saying that this board has an appetite for that, but the reality is, I don't want to look at piecemeal and make a commitment and then kind of bind what else we have, you know, and so I think it'd be a good idea just to workshop that alone, is to identify what is all of our surplus
We can
properties.
certainly go, we do have real estate workshops on the agenda next year, so we can, coming in the new agenda, so we can certainly include that, Mr. Mayor.
I think that that's a really valid thing. We need to do an overall strategic plan for these properties and come up with.
That's a great idea, we can
Yeah.
certainly do that. But is there an appetite for this particular piece of property with UCP, because?
I mean, that's a school, right? Adding a school to a school,
That
I
is
don't
a
have
school
any
that
issues
benefits
there.
us though, because UCP is a specialized course as well, right?
I was gonna ask, I thought they
They are they're an ESE-focused charter school. They do tremendous work. They serve a need that certainly our community has. So I see this as a benefit to the needs of our community.
what grades did they say they would do it?
So I believe
All the way
they
through
do.
high school, right?
I don't,
They're
No.
K-5.
Yeah.
Right now, they're only like K4, but I believe they want to go to K5.
They want
They
to
do, yeah. So I do think, though, that they definitely provide, they provide a good educational product and experience for kids that are ESE. And it's tried and true, and they've always been good partners as a charter with our school district, so.
We had a
I don't have
conversation
any
about
objection.
them recently. What was that conversation surrounding? Was it just letting them operate?
That was just even see if we wanted to entertain kids, and then they come out and they've looked, and then they come
This
back,
is
and
the-
based on their demographics and location of the parents they would be serving, this became their
The specific
preferred.
piece of property is what they're asking for. They did ask us to look at whether we would be willing to work with them, and now they found a specific piece of property that they want to look at.
I'm just against the concept of saying, okay, here's a surplus property identified for a specific purpose or specific person to, or a specific entity to use, when we don't even know what that is. What other entities may be interested in something like that? You know, so I don't want to give the impression that, hey, you know, we're surplusing it specifically for UCP because they have a great relationship with us. And so I just don't want to give that kind of public perception.
I agree with
And
that
so,
100%. I
you
think
know,
that that's totally valid.
That's why I want to have the strategic plan, look at everything, and give everyone like a fair shake on what they want to do, you know, unless, or we may have plans to do with it. Or let's say the county wants another park, and they were looking for a property there, and, you know, so I think the county is a valuable partner, you know, from what they may want to use for it. So that's the only thing is I'm just,
We've made the mistake of doing specific things for specific pieces of property, and that's wrong, because the entire community should have, because it's public, if we're gonna do something with it, then we should allow other people to bid or become involved, or, you know, so on. So, I mean, like, I think that we gave, last year, we gave away a little building, right? We should have at least had given the opportunity for other nonprofits to come and pitch, this is what you're gonna do with this use. And I think that's what we should be doing with our land, just allowing people to come with ideas for the land as
When
opposed to
are-
just doing it for specific people.
When are they interested in opening up the school?
So their current lease will carry them to August of 2025, but they would like to be under a contract that allows them to open in 2025, so there's no downtime between when they have to get out of the current lease to move into the new facility.
Okay. When is our next real estate workshop?
We would have to look at, that calendar's gonna be on the board tonight, so we don't have a calendar approval. Probably within 3 months, because they're usually every quarter.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I mean, sure, I'm glad that they have like a really good benefit to the community, and you and I spoke about this, it seems like they have a waiting list. I agree with all that, just in regards to like helping students. However, I do have a little bit of like hesitation to just blanket say, yeah, let's go ahead and entertain this conversation. I'm a systems person. I want to have a system in place for everyone, not just for one specific person. So in that sense, I do agree with Mr. Melendez and Mr. Arguello that I would really like to just understand like what would be the specific process for everyone.
Okay.
Nothing against this particular
That's understandable.
school.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I say we bring it back to the next real estate board workshop and get you the full list of properties and.
Then I can look
sort
at
of what-
zoning and what would even be allowed
Yeah.
based on the current zoning, et cetera.
And from another perspective too, again, I'm into strategic planning, that's where my thing too is, once we sell this money, can we put into a kitty to do something that we really want to do? Because like I said, even the admin building, you know, and trust me, I'm always trying to save money, but man, these 10,000 portables piecemeal everywhere, you know, I got staff everywhere is not cool. Eventually, we got to put a kitty to maybe, you know, build an actual admin building where everyone's together. You know, and that's gonna cost money. And every little thing that we can do, if it's not already pre-accounted for, and if we got 20 surplus properties worth $20 million, that's a significant amount of money down into like one unified admin building where folks can go up. Or we talked about the property right next to us, the college. At one point, we're thinking about buying that. Maybe we don't have to buddy in with the county and we can take over the whole thing. So that, to me, that's the whole purpose, is just not piecemealing things. It's coming a strategic plan of what we want to do with the property, whether or not we want to keep it, and what we do with the funds once we expend or sell it.
So, no problem. What we'll do is we'll bring all of those together at the next,
Absolutely.
at the next real estate workshop, facilities workshop. The one thing I want to get clarity on is we can bring all this surplus property to you, that's not a problem. Are you interested in us going ahead and developing different processes by which we would vet potential buyers to these properties, and then also kind of bring those back to the board as well? Because we can package that all together. What I don't want to do is I don't want to go ahead and just bring a list of where all of our surplus properties are, and that's it.
I'm more interested in a system and how we will do business than a list of properties. That's
Then-
not even like my biggest
And maybe
question.
even like potential uses. You know, we talk about, again, you know, we got to expand schools, but then some schools are looking to expand their CTE programs, or they may have something in there. We don't have space to put an awesome planetarium. Let's say we want to, you know, we want to shoot for the stars and create a planetarium and have everyone study it. You know, where we're going to put it, you know, that could be I'm making something totally up random.
Sure.
But that's my point, is let's be innovative. We own the land, why don't just get rid of it? What if we wanted to do something cool, create a magnet school? You know, let's think beyond that, you know, and create student stations that can help them achieve their goal.
Understood. We
I
can,
think it is key, the system, sorry to interrupt you,
Yeah.
but to come up with a system so that the public can't, it's not like we're not, because I think the initial concern was this bottle of water is gonna be sold to this phone only.
Right.
And then we do, you're right, as opposed to saying, we have this phone.
Right.
This, who's got the best use for
This
it?
is our process.
Yeah.
understood. Okay, we
Yeah,
can definitely do
certainly
that.
do that.
Yeah, and it could be like an application. Tell us what you want to do with it. Why do you want to do with it? What's the purpose of it? Who are you benefiting?
We'll go ahead and we'll work with the board to determine what parts of the system you want to see in place. So then we can go ahead and build out several models, and then you guys can determine which one you prefer. And then we can kind of go from there. And then that's how we can operationalize the idea of processing these surplus properties in the future. Does that sound like a great, good plan?
Right, and the last item we have is the Pine Tree Drive, real property on Pine Tree Drive. We're on the-
So I'll give you 50% of this presentation based on what we just discussed. So I just want to give you a quick update that we did take the Valencia team out there to look at the site. We took them out into the surrounding areas. We showed them where the new turnpike exchange and everything would be. They took about 60 days. They got back with me at the end of last week. And they did say the location is just a little too far south for both their accelerated training facility and an East Osceola campus. So this site would be back up. I was going to ask you to put it back out, but since we just got the new direction, we'll just add it to the next list.
Get the process worked out
and get the
before we
process figured out.
think of this.
Now, would St. Cloud, this is being, again, my innovative self is back again. St. Cloud owns that quadrant over there with the fire department training. Would they consider maybe moving there and they're gonna get a new up-to-date facility and even do like a swap?
They have looked at it.
Because we can even do a
The property-
trade, it doesn't have to be financial, you know what I'm saying? They can come over to us, build an awesome new facility, we take their property and sell it later, because that way they can have a full use of that.
We can broach that with them. I know they looked at it at 2 other times for 2 different purposes. Once for public works facility, once for just a large retention pond, and then they backed away both times, but we can add it to the list.
I think what we would want to do is we would want to operationalize that too.
Yes.
Because we need to make sure that, land swaps and those types of things
The
would
process would need to be worked out.
would need to be.
So I think in general, what it seems like this board is interested in is, as part of our new strategic direction, is to make sure that we have more systems in place and less one-off conversations.
Yeah.
So clearly, these are the ones that are coming up, but just in terms of like thinking about where our strategic plan conversations are gonna take us, those workshops, I feel like that's a really big piece of what we wanna explore, is how to be more, I don't wanna use the word operational again, but what efficient, yeah, what are the systems processes that we should have in place as a district?
So we completely agree. I think that this is very refreshing to hear because that's a lot of what staff has really talked about. We want in all facets to be much more systems focused. So then we have very clear ROI measures that are in place. And everything is based on the data that we are returning. And that returning data has got to be completely objective and business focused, whether those outcomes are on the teaching and learning side or they're on the business side. But we know that we've got to become more systems focused, no doubt about it. And I think it starts with making sure that we've got clear metrics that we are working towards. And every metric and everything that we work towards is pointing towards our core business of student achievement, and delivering the best possible experience for kids.
Thank you.
Thank you.